Hi, this is Dr. Tom Rifai, editor for News of the Day, brought to you by the True Health Initiative, transformational lifestyle specialist, and I am honored to bring you Mr. Josh Linkner. Josh is a 5-time tech entrepreneur. He's actually an accomplished jazz guitarist, and he is also America's top innovation keynote speaker. And therefore, you might wonder, in a platform that talks a lot about nutrition and lifestyle change, how we're going to fuse all of this together. And I guarantee you we are, because Josh is, in my opinion, in essence, a brain surgeon without a knife. He's going to unlock doors that are blocking silos in our brain to bring out our innovation, and actually has his own flexitarian lifestyle transformation story. Josh, it's a pleasure to have you here on Noted.
Truly great to be with you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, we do know that you have a phenomenal new book coming out, Big Little Breakthroughs. I can't wait to read it. I will be honest. I know that, tell people I know a little bit about what's inside of it. We had a chance to work on a piece of it together. Can't wait. I'm going to ask you about some parts in that as well. But as we kind of weave together this journey here on Noted, what I first like to do is have people get to know you a bit. You know, John, without necessarily going into lurid detail, but the trajectory of Josh, you know, how we started, and then, you know, you're into jazz musicianship, you're traveling around, and you then become this very successful tech entrepreneur. And then maybe we, at that point, can get into some of the lifestyle story. But first, give us that first Star Wars episode. Well, I guess it would be 4. I was going to say 1, but go ahead and give us that first part of the journey of Josh.
Yeah, so I'm proudly from Detroit. I was born in the city, not the suburbs. And I've always been a non-traditional misfit, really, a troublemaker, as I like to say. But I became very passionate about a few things as a young kid. I became super passionate about music, and I actually pursue that professionally. I still play at a professional level, mainly jazz guitar, but a couple other musical things too. And that's been a real through line throughout my whole life. I became very passionate about technology at an early age. I started writing software on an Atari 800 in the early 80s. And that was like the precursor to the internet. And I became, in the context of all that, really excited about human creativity. That obviously is a big component of jazz. And all these things, technology and creativity and music, all fused together for me. When I was 20, I was playing music professionally, put myself through college, and I really started a tech company out of nowhere. I'd never taken a business class, didn't know what I was doing, but I used the principles of creativity and kind of put it together, had some success, and I had got the bug. So, you know, fast forward over the next 30 years, I had the chance to start, build, and sell 5 tech companies of my own. I've been involved in the launch of over 100 startups. I've invested in companies, bought and sold companies, and have been really excited about entrepreneurship. But very much for me, it's still playing jazz. It's just playing jazz with a different set of instruments. And then just kind of rounding things out, because I'm so passionate about human creativity and the ability for people to bring this incredible gift that we all have but don't always use to the surface for productive gain. I've now written 4 books on the topic, and I've had the chance to speak to over 1,000 audiences around the world on how do we tap into this magical talent that we all have and deploy it for the outcomes that we care the most about in our lives.
Absolutely. And I just flashed discipline dreaming. And as you know, I'm all into the discipline without extremism, which gives us that common ground in terms of our, you know, flexitarian approach to lifestyle. We'll get to that. But, you know, this story in terms of what we're talking about here, ultimately, both the personal journey of Josh and lifestyle and the concepts of really breaking through barriers that people have in terms of being innovative. And you've made it a point that everyone has an innate capacity to be innovative. You know, I really would like to get into that, but at a certain point, and I'll let you please tell the story from your perspective, you also realize that, you know, as busy as I am, I'm going to really need to put this into context, and that my business performance and my lifestyle performance are really one. And so maybe give us an idea of how that realization and that desire to become innovative yourself, and how you took the system that we work with, that 5 keys to optimal wellness, and made it your own and applied some of that innovation energy to your own journey of health.
Yeah. So, Tom, you've said many times that most people really can effectuate change if they want to, one small step at a time. And the research, just real quickly, on human creativity is exactly that. It's not that 1 out of 1,000 of us are creative and the rest of us have to suffer. The research is crystal clear that all of us really have the capacity to be creative. And my belief, my core belief, is that there's 7 billion people walking around on the planet with dormant creative capacity. Me included. And I study this stuff. So if I still have dormant capacity, I think most of us do. And so I'm just on this mission to help everyday people become everyday innovators. If we can unlock some of that creative capacity, the thing is that it's so powerful. It can affect not only outcomes in our professional lives, but in our personal lives, in our health, in our kids' education, and our environment, and everywhere in between. So I look at it like there's this dormant superpower that human beings have, and I'm on this mission to help them unlock it. But with that bridge to your question on my own personal sense. So what I've learned in studying human creativity, it really is, if you think about a technology, there's like the hardware, your laptop, and then the software that runs on the laptop. Creativity is like the same thing. So there's the software, all the stuff that I've learned and practiced, but then you got the hardware, which is, my physical body. And if you're trying to run brilliantly cool, killer modern software on an IBM 286 with an amber screen and 4 megs of memory, you're going to have a problem. And I realized, really thanks to your leadership, that I was running good software on perhaps a suboptimal piece of hardware. And through your coaching, I really went on this transformation. I think that I learned a lot. It wasn't, agonizing. I didn't feel like I was on a diet or anything, but I really started to think that, could I upgrade my hardware in a way that would be beneficial across all the areas of life, not just my business, although I certainly cared about that, certainly not just to look good in a pair of jeans, but, could I be a better partner and a better dad and a better, contributor to the world. And that's what I learned, is that, we read all these books, we study, we learn, and that's the software. And we need to, by the way, but we can't neglect the hardware that's running that software. And again, thanks to you, I made some significant changes, and I've noticed that, a direct impact as a result.
Thank you so much for that. I want to ask you something that isn't really a planned question, but in a sense is important, I think, for everyone to know. And you've given me an opportunity, because in the beautiful platform that you have, you make it clear, and we're from Detroit, and we have our own type of pizza that we're very proud of. It says, lover of greasy pizza. I am too well, it might be luster, but anyway, whether it's lust or love, whatever the case may be, there's a strong passion. Me too. And the concept of that 5% fun zone, that idea that we need some strategic resting, that the concept of the zero tolerance, while I know, because of how we've worked together, how many plants you eat now. I mean, you certainly do. You've cranked up the plants. There's no question about that. But that room, and in terms of lifestyle, and does that apply to innovation at all too, in terms of being more creative and providing yourself some form of strategic resting, where it's really for the purpose of the bigger picture? It's not just in terms of cheating and the terms that people come up with. It's a 5% fun zone for a reason, a strategic rest for a reason.
Well, it's amazing to me, as I've learned more about your body of work, and how that so many of these principles have a direct correlation to other areas of life, and specifically business, which I spend a lot of time in. But so the way I would translate that 5% fun zone to the business world is as follows. Most of us in our professional lives are heads down all the time. So we're getting our transactional work done, we're responding to emails, we're putting out fires, whatever. And if we're 100% heads down, and there's nothing wrong with that, you have to be heads down at times, but when you fail to be any heads up time, which means you're not letting your creativity out, you're not pushing the boundaries, you're not noticing and being curious, and all the things that really drive our long-term success. So it's funny, that 5% fun zone that you talk about with eating, in my case, greasy pizza, which I love, really does apply for creativity. What I encourage people to do is take a 5% challenge. Actually, we share that 5% number. Like if you think of a business week as 40 hours, 5% of that is 2 hours. And so people, and I've offered this up all over the world, take a 5% challenge for 30 days, which means allocate 2 hours a week and carve it out, schedule it like it's an important meeting that can't be broken. And in that 2 hours, that 5%, use that as heads up time instead of heads down time. Let your creativity wander. It's sort of like the mental equivalent of eating your greasy pizza. Enjoy yourself, listen to some music. Like, don't have a specific outcome in mind, but let your mind wander and explore the possibilities. Anyway, Tom, I've done this with people all over the world, thousands of people. And here's what I've heard every time. First thing I hear is a 0% drop in productivity. Zero. So magically 40 hours get smushed into 38 hours. Nobody misses a beat. The next thing I hear is they say, oh, but that first week, I felt really frivolous. I felt like I was cheating on my spouse or something. Like, how come I'm not doing something productive, quote unquote? But by the end of the 30-day test, people tell me, they say, it's the most productive time I spend, not only that week, but like in the last 10 years. And they build it into a regular habit. So that 5% shift, where, yeah, they're going to be doing sort of like the basics, the 95% of their time, but that 5% of their time where they let their imagination out to play, where they have some fun, where they let inventive thinking and creative problem solving carry the day instead of just heads down work, it becomes liberating, and it becomes wildly important to their career outcomes, and it's intrinsically rewarding because there are few things in life as beautiful as the expression of human creativity. So it's funny, there's a direct correlation that 5% carries over into the world of creativity as much as it does into nutrition.
Absolutely. And lifestyle, in a sense, it would be like sleep, and saying, well, sleep makes no sense, it's a waste of time. Oh, absolutely not. It's definitely not a waste of time. Now,
yeah, tell that to somebody who hasn't slept for a couple of days and see how their productivity is.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Or they're driving. Please don't drive in that state.
Yeah.
This is wonderful. And where we are then today is you have a new book coming out, Big Little Breakthroughs, which is something really close to my heart in terms of the tortoise, not the hare, and how you came up with the concept of, even from the title on through, there are just so many cool stories I can imagine. I did listen to another podcast you were on, so I got a little bit more insight into what's in the book. I love the story about the cigarette butts. I'm not going to go any further than that, but if you could maybe throw that in there, that would be, obviously really close to our heart. And what is that, the purpose that you seek in the book? And if you can throw us a couple of tips, it doesn't have to be lifestyle wise. I truly think that your innovation process and thinking will help people without necessarily obsessing all the time about lifestyle. If one happens to apply to that, fine, absolutely. I don't want to limit you, but please tell us more about Big Little Breakthroughs.
Yeah. So, one observation that I have is that there's a lot of misconceptions about creativity. People think innovation only counts if it's $1 billion idea. They think only 1 out of 1,000 of us are creative and the rest of us have to suffer. They think that creativity only applies to certain things like art or maybe marketing or R&D, but doesn't apply to other areas of business or life. And so this book is really helping everyday people become everyday innovators. It's sort of like innovation for the rest of us. And in doing so, I dispel many of those myths. The book is deeply researched. I spent over 1,000 hours in research and interviews with CEOs and billionaires and celebrity entrepreneurs and amazing people all around the world to deliver a very specific and practical system for everyday people to build their creativity muscles, to sort of build this capacity that can be used in all areas of their life. And by the way, it absolutely can be used into health. You build creativity into the way that we look at nutrition and exercise and sleep and rest and breathing and everywhere else. So it's a powerful tool that can be used in business, but absolutely can be used in health. So anyway, the book was fascinating to write. I really enjoyed it. I covered the stories, not of Netflix or Apple, because we already know that they're innovative. We looked at these untold stories that need to be told of amazing people doing really powerful things with their own creativity. The story that you mentioned, Tom, is about a guy named Trewin Restorick. So Trewin is not a celebrity. He doesn't go to work in a hoodie every day. He's not a super genius. He wears like crinkly khaki pants and 11-year-old torn up loafers. He's sort of disheveled looking, and he's like a normal guy. He struggled through college, and he's just trying to pay the bills like most of us. But Trewin was really drawn to the outdoors. He really cared passionately about the environment. And he learned that in London, where he lives, litter is a big problem, and specifically cigarette butt litter. I'm sure you've been in a beautiful city and you look up and you marvel at the architecture, and then you look down and you see all these horrible, ugly cigarette butts. And they're not only unsightly, but it's terrible for the environment. It creates health problems for animals or small children that might ingest them. It costs a bunch of money to try to clean up, and they're not that successful. So back to Trewin. He says, oh, okay, I see this problem. Maybe I could do something about it. Maybe a big little breakthrough could work. So he invented something called the ballot bin. And what the ballot bin is, imagine you walked out of a London pub and you just finished your fish and chips and you're about to toss your cigarette butt on the ground, but instead you see like this bright yellow glowing thing drawing you near. And as you approach it, it's mounted at eye level. It's like a metal box that's painted bright yellow. You can't miss it. The front of the box is glass, and there's a divider down the middle. So it's a glass box, two columns. And at the top, there's a question: which is your favorite food, hamburgers or pizza? Well, mine is pizza, of course. So if I were doing this, I would then vote with my quote unquote butt. In other words, I'd put my cigarette butt in a little receptacle under the word pizza, and it would drop on top of the other cigarettes like a bar chart in real time. And I could see that pizza is in the lead over hamburgers. Now, these ballot bins can be customized with any two-part questions. You could talk about food or sports or politics, whatever. But here's the thing. This simple, low-tech, not expensive, didn't require military-grade hardware, didn't require 13 PhDs, reduced cigarette litter by 80%. And he's gone on to now build this organization. He has 50 people. He actually sells ballot bins in 27 countries. He's taking a real bite out of a real problem in our world, not because he was some tech wizard, billionaire, super genius. It's because he was an everyday person who chose to become an everyday innovator. That's what the book is all about. It's how people use small micro innovations, how they cultivate the habit of creativity, how they practice on a daily basis. The same way folks that follow you, Tom, practice health on a daily basis. Small little bites at a time add up to big things.
Absolutely. That is such an inspirational story. Now, I might say, what's your favorite fruit? But like you said, it can be any question. And it seems like such a small breakthrough, and yet look what it turned out to be. It turned out to be a huge answer to a really huge problem. I mean, in all honesty, just prior to this interview, I saw someone throw a cigarette butt out the window, and I thought of that story. It's a sad issue, and I appreciate you highlighting that. In fact, please go on. I mean, there are a number of stories like this. I'd just like to take some time, if you don't mind, to give people a real look into Big Little Breakthroughs. But before we do, can you tell us, when is it coming out?
Yeah, it's coming out April 20th. It's available in hardcover. It's available in Kindle, audiobook, whatever you feel like reading. But even if you don't want to buy the book, I really do encourage people to build their creative abilities. And if people want to visit biglittlebreakthroughs.com, it's nothing to buy, but there's a whole reservoir of goodies there. There's an assessment tool that you can use for free. There's downloadable worksheets. There's technique. There's a lot to help people begin on their quest for creative excellence. And by the way, I think about you often, Tom, because people think that creativity is fixed. Like however much creativity you were born with, that's what you got. But I always say that creativity is much more like your weight than your height. In other words, you know me, I'm 5'5" on a good day. I'm not going to be 6'3" no matter how hard I try. But my weight, as you've taught me, I can fluctuate based on my decisions, based on my habits. And creativity is exactly like your weight. In other words, even the assessment that I have on biglittlebreakthroughs.com, it's like jumping on the scale and seeing how you weigh in today. It can give you some tips and ideas on how you might be able to improve your score and come back a week later and be even better. So that's the good news for us all, is that it's not a fixed asset. It's a fluid asset that we can build and control and grow.
That's great value, and I want to be very clear with everyone. I have no financial interest in Josh's book at all. I just think he writes phenomenally well, and the concepts behind Big Little Breakthroughs, from everything I've heard so far, I think it's going to be your best book, which is really saying something, because you're already a New York Times bestseller. What would be a Detroit story? I hate to be selfish about it, but you see the gear and axle in the background for the bookends. My mother was the medical director for the Chevy Tech Center for years. And if I can be selfish about it, being two Detroit guys, give us a Detroit story out of Big Little Breakthroughs.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I cut off your earlier question, but in the back of the book, so we first lay the foundation, the research. I went deep into not only academic research, but also neuroscience. We went inside MRI machines and looked at how musicians' brains change when they're improvising. We did all kinds of, it's heavily researched. But the back half of the book covers 8 core obsessions, the sort of core mindsets of everyday innovators. And they're really fun. Like one is called Use Every Drop of Toothpaste, which is around being scrappy. And one of them says, don't forget the dinner mint, which is around sort of plussing up a project with a little extra dose of creativity. So in each of these chapters, which are eight chapters, one for each of these core obsessions, there's a lot of interesting stories. I love just telling stories. We remember stories. That's how we learn and grow. And you're right, Tom, there were many from Detroit. We talk about Detroit Wallace Guitars, who is a person who is able to, talk about getting scrappy, he takes reclaimed wood. So as they're tearing down a historic building, he gets the wood and then, instead of just discarding it, rebuilds it into these incredible guitars. It's called Detroit Wallace Guitars. And there are these pieces of historic significance that you can play as a guitar. We talk about the downtown youth boxing gym, which is a young man who was involved in gangs and drugs and violence, who turned his life around, wanted to help his community, started a program that's really an educational facility. It only looks like a boxing gym to get kids in there, but they're not allowed to train in the ring until they spend a couple hours working in the back room. So here's a guy who was creative and scrappy and got after it, and he's making a massive difference in outcomes in this education system in an at-risk system in Detroit. It's one of the most top 5 murder zip codes in the United States, actually. The high school graduation rate, it's an abysmal 37%. And the kids that go through his program, the high school graduation rate is 100% for 10 years in a row. So it just goes to show how, these amazing everyday people are making incredible progress through cultivating, one big little breakthrough at a time.
In this time where we're, let's be honest, coming out of the pandemic, there's just a lot of, really to turn on the news is such a challenge. I would encourage the media to read Big Little Breakthroughs and get some ideas on how to, sure, tell us all the news that we need to know. I think we could probably balance it a little better with some of these extremely newsworthy stories, hence why you're here on News of the Day. I think that's fantastic. In terms of the book and how long it took. I mean, I asked you in the beginning, like, where did it start? In general, where did the idea of the title come from, and how long has it been in the making?
Well, the overall duration is about 2.5 years, although one could argue it's 30 years of work in the field that got me there. But again, 1,000 hours of research, lots of time writing and editing, and so it's a meaty project. It's like having another kid. I have 4 kids who I love dearly, and to a degree, it's like you're giving birth to something. The title was a little bit of play because we often think that, again, that innovation only counts if it's big, that we have to swing for the fences, take irresponsible risks, better our careers, and this is the opposite. It's flipping it upside down, making it much more accessible. One little teeny breakthrough at a time. Part of the analogy in the book cover anyway, you may be familiar with the art form of Pointillism. So Pointillism is taking a simple dot of primary color, like a dot of green that my 4-year-old daughter Talia could put on the page. And that dot itself is very simple. It's not a lightning bolt of inspiration and given from the heavens. It's like anyone can do it. But if you put a couple more dots and a couple more dots, before long it adds up to a masterpiece. And that was like Vincent van Gogh, is just a series of dots all put together. Each one is not that complex, but it ultimately coalesces into something valuable. And that's really how innovation works. It's those little everyday dots, the simple acts of micro innovations, small creative ideas that add up to big things. I will say though that there's another inspiration that you gave me. Your whole philosophy is this duality, this fusion between reality and science, that it can't be all or nothing. And I tried to think about that a lot as I was writing the book, because I hope it has the nutritional value of a shot of wheatgrass. I mean, it is. It's dense, not hard to take down, but there's a lot of hopefully really valuable content. But I also wanted to make it taste good. Like I wanted to make it so it's fun to read. That you'd read it on vacation, not just if in a library or something. So I try to mimic your fusion of reality and science in writing the book. So making that again has the nutritional value of a wheatgrass shot, but it tastes as good as a greasy slice of pizza.
That's a great point. You really make the pill, if you will, then all the knowledge and the power you get from it easy to swallow. And in that sense, then I would like to ask, as we do everybody who comes unnoted, just a little bit about Josh's lifestyle. What is if you were to say, well, let me just ask you, since we brought up the cigarette butt story, and what would we put, and I said, what's your which fruit? What are a couple of your favorite fruits? What are some of Josh's go-to fruits and vegetables?
So I'm a berries junkie. I just love berries. It's so funny. Like if we didn't realize that berries were healthy for us, we'd choose them over chocolates all day long. At least I would. I mean, they're absolutely amazing. So we always have tons of blueberries, raspberries, blackberries. Strawberries. I'm a berry nut. I even love things like acai berries and goji berries and all that. So berries for me is the for sure go-to fruit. Although I like other fruits, but that's the bomb. I'm actually gonna have a Honeycrisp apple later on. And same thing. If we didn't know it was good for us, we'd think we were like eating crack cocaine or something. It's so delicious. Vegetables. We eat a ton of vegetables. My wife Tia and I and she's better than I am, frankly. But we try to eat a flexitarian lifestyle that we've learned a lot from you. And so we do. She just made this amazing like curry cauliflower dish, and it was like basmati rice a little bit, but it's amazing curry and filled with vegetables and cauliflower and chickpeas, and it was like super filling and it was delicious and it was awesome. So it's amazing what we can do when we put our creativity, I guess, toward cooking.
Absolutely, and I think what you've emphasized in a beautiful story-like way is that power of the environment. So I have in this case, social environment, and how great it is to have our life partner be on board with us. That's a real blessing. And
I just want to tell you one more thing real quickly, though, about fruits and vegetables. So one of the stories I covered in the book, I haven't had the chance to share this with you yet, Tom, but so it turns out there's two problems that kind of smacked into one another. First problem is that 1 out of 9 people on this planet don't have enough to eat. So like 800 million people, some huge number, go to bed hungry every night, which is obviously horrible and tragic.
Some in this country.
Second thing that we learned is that 40% of produce, fruits and vegetables, is wasted. So in other words, we're growing enough food for everybody, but the reason it's getting wasted is largely due to spoilage. And by the time fruits and vegetables are taken and grown and then transported, we have a big drop off. So these nerdy chemistry students at the UC Santa Barbara saw these two problems, and they said, maybe we can try to get after this. And one of the principles in the book is start before you're ready. And they saw the problem. They had no idea what they were going to do, but they said, maybe we should try to do something about it. So they started realizing, well, how does nature protect itself? And it turns out that every fruit and vegetable has a peel. And what does the peel do? They asked. And the peel keeps the oxygen out and the water in. And they started thinking, okay, and then how does the peel work? And so since they were chemistry geeks, they started experimenting. And what they came up with was something amazing. It's called a peel scientist. And they started a company, got a grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where they basically take the actual fruit itself, and so it's all organic and from the fruit, it's not a chemical. And they create a spray. They spray onto fruits and vegetables that extends the life of the peel. So an avocado, which normally goes bad way too quickly, now lasts 3.5 times as long. Or strawberries, they last 6 times as long. And again, they're using fruit to protect fruit and vegetables to protect vegetables. It's not some harmful pesticide or something. But what they've done is dramatic. And they are now significantly extending the life, the good life of fruits and vegetables, meaning that they're taking a real bite out of world hunger, and they're preserving food, and they're extracting costs out of the system. It's like this unbelievable thing. So here in the middle of the pandemic and the worst time we've all faced in modern history, they actually got a new investment from the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Singapore, valuing that company at over $1 billion. Less than 6 years after starting, these chemistry nerds from UC Santa Barbara have $1 billion company while making the world a better place, while preserving fruits and vegetables, while going after world hunger. Why? Because they went after it with this deliberate, big little breakthrough approach. And that's one of the stories I just love in the book. I thought you'd dig it as well.
Absolutely. Didn't I tell you we were going to fuse together all of this lifestyle and science and tech and innovation? I mean, that's a perfect example right there. And if we are to look at the potential for, if you will, and no pun intended, a healthy lifestyle to become infectious, there's a little bit of a story of how your journey and as a leader has kind of rolled its way into your team. I'll just let you take the baton. Go.
Yeah, well, you've been gracious enough to come hang out with us sometime and share some wisdom. And again, I feel like some of the littlest things that you've taught us really have made a huge difference. Like thinking about calorie density in food or something, just like these little things that you can say quickly, but they just leave this big, powerful, lasting impact. In our case, we've done a few things. We do every quarter or so, we're doing like a 3-day juice cleanse as a team, which is kind of fun. And, we're toughing it out together, which is cool. But even on a more regular basis, instead of carrying in greasy burgers for lunch, most days we make smoothies in the office, and we make it fun. Actually, I usually make them for the team, and our whole fridge, instead of being stocked with like frozen garbage, is stocked with frozen fruit, and we make healthy smoothies and we hand them out to each other, and we have way more energy in the day, and it's better for us on every front. So yeah, we just try to make simple daily habit changes, and as you know, those are like the big little breakthroughs of health. Those little teeny tweaks go a long way. Absolutely.
Josh, well, first of all, before I think because this is just, it's been great. It's been information dense. We want to leave people honestly with that whet appetite to go search for more on you. First of all, the book, we know, thank you for biglittlebreakthroughs.com. There's tips there. It doesn't cost you a thing, but I would encourage you to get the book. I think it's really, it's going to be phenomenal reading. You are also available to speak. I know you're busy. I know that, your schedule is out, but if someone wanted to have Josh Linkner come in, whether it's, virtual or whether it's in person, how would they reach out to you?
Yeah, so my website is just my name, joshlinkner.com. That's JOSHLINKNER.com. And all my social handles are the same, which is just at Josh Linkner. And you know, whether I have you have a speaking budget doesn't matter. If I can be helpful to you in any way, if there's anything I can do, please ping me. I'm always happy to respond. And like you, Tom, I know you're always generous with helping people that have a health question. I'm kind of the same way. I'm so passionate about creativity and just the idea of helping people become more creative, helping them bring more inventive thinking into their lives and businesses. It's just exciting to me. So any way I can help is my pleasure.
No, you know, you have been such an inspiration. Whatever I have done, thank you, but you have been absolutely an inspiration to me. That's why I wanted to bring you onto this platform. I think you have a really unique way of taking something that someone might prior to this have said, what is Josh Linkner doing on here? And now really get it, that the mind power that you bring, help people bring to fore with innovation will not only help their lifestyle, which is, you know, obviously with the True Health Initiative, it's an important thing for us. But if you've got a great body and you've got a great lifestyle in terms of metabolic health, what's the point unless you're enjoying the rest of your life and have the ability to take that even beyond? And in a sense, you also mentioned how you've taken the lifestyle and put it into the business. So it's really one discussion. And I really appreciate the stories that you brought here to News of the Day. Is there any final thing you'd like to leave with our audience before we sign off today?
Yeah, I would just say again, I come from the business world, but I really think we can use that creativity toward health. I mean, you and I have joked around about this. You know, I travel a lot, at least when it's not COVID. And now I made it a game. Like, okay, I'm in the Austin airport. How can I, you know, find something healthy? And sometimes like I'll get something from one place and hack something else or order something weird. And I've seen you do this a bunch of times. You know, you go to a place and order whatever, a cheeseburger without the cheeseburger. I don't know, but we can apply creativity and just it doesn't have to be in a classical sense. You know, we know that painting on canvas is creative. We know that playing music is creative, but why can't we be creative in the way that we take care of our bodies and our families and our communities? So I just encourage people to think about it as another tool in their arsenal, another, you know, advantage that they might be able to have to give them the edge that they're looking for, not only in business, but also in health and life.
Josh, thank you so much for this interview. It's fantastic. You really have fused it all together and to help people understand there's a wide and wonderful world out there. A lot of it starts right in your brain. Have a wonderful day, my friend. I can't wait to connect with you again. And again, thank you from the True Health Initiative for being on News of the Day. All right. Have a wonderful day, man.